and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Yo, Shortbox Nation. Hello again. Welcome back. And happy new comic book day. It's another Wednesday, another new podcast. Thanks for pressing play today. You know what makes today so special is that it is the Wednesday before the best holiday in all of comics. It's the Wednesday before Free Comic Book Day, and that's what this episode is going to be all about. If you're new, welcome to the show. My name is Botter, and this is the Shortbox Podcast, the comic book talk show that brings you the best conversations about your favorite comics with the people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into making them. And in today's case, also the person who puts his blood, sweat, and tears into selling said comic books and creating an awesome comic culture here in Jacksonville, Florida. This is episode 456, and I'm recording this episode at my favorite comic shop in the whole entire world. I'm at Gotham City Limit. I got the one and only Ben Kingsbury here with me to talk about Free Comic Book Day, which is happening this Saturday, May 3rd. So we're going to hear from Ben about Gotham City Limit, how they're celebrating the event. We'll talk about the comics that are going to be available. And we'll also hear from him about what the future of the event might look like. Considering all the business of Diamond, you know, the state of the business of Diamond and its very uncertain future so far of them declaring bankruptcy. We'll get into all of that later. Now, with that being said, let's officially welcome your favorite comic shop owner's favorite comic shop owner, the one and only Ben Kingsbury. Ben, you won't be able to hear the applaud. That'll be put in post, but I got a roaring applause for you, brother. How you doing?
Roaring applause, Byron. Thanks so much for being here, man. Free Comic Book Day is the best day of the year, especially for comic shop owners. And the fact that, you know, you only get to come here and grace us with your presence a couple times a year to actually film something here. So this is some of my favorite times. Obviously, we love sponsoring your podcast, man. You get the best interviews. You have the best subjects. You really do cover everything that happens in the comic world. So it works out very nicely for us to be partnered up with you. But the local community event of the year is what we call Free Comic Book Day. So here we go, baby. It's Free Comic Book Day week. I hope I'm ready.
Ben. Well, you know, what's funny is before we were recording, you were talking to me about just how busy, you know, you're already like thinking about how busy you're going to be. And it's like a week out. We're recording the Sunday before Free Comic Book Day. And I guess like walk me through it. Like what's going to happen these next couple days? This episode comes out obviously the Wednesday before Free Comic Book Day. But walk me through like this entire week. How much prep, you know, what are you guys doing to get ready?
Sure. So, I mean, I think it started when I first opened this place, 2018. It was January. So obviously Free Comic Book Day was going to be coming up in March of 2018. And since we were kind of a new business, I got lucky in a sense that I decided I was going to make Free Comic Book Day kind of our grand opening that year in 2018. I had been to a couple Free Comic Book Days, but you know, we've all been to a couple Free Comic Book Days where they're like, hey, pick out a couple comics from your favorite ones, 2 or 3 of them. And that's kind of it. It was kind of like, it didn't really feel, so I wanted to make sure we threw a party. And because of 2018, when we started kind of our grand opening, now it really has become the community event of the year. So for us, actually, this week, although we are super busy, I've gotten most of this stuff, you start planning for this event so far ahead of time. Every year we do a specialty for the shop that we give away. So a Free Comic Book Day patch. This year it's a Pacer patch. It's the best thing ever. The Amazing Shop Dog 2025. So we got the patches and the stickers ready to go. I don't know if you remember last year, but we had everybody sign the wall.
Yeah.
So I had
it was under construction.
Yeah, so I had stickers made of the signed wall. You know, so we're gonna be handing those out so that everybody has that.
It never ceases to amaze me how meta you can get, Ben.
Right. Well, I mean, you gotta try to. So, and then this year, on top of it, if you've ever been to Free Comic Book Day here, it is crazy, but this place is tiny. So now I rent the Bat Cave next door, which is our kind of behind the scenes storage. But for Free Comic Book Day, it's going to change everything. So this week, instead of waiting until Thursday or Friday night to set up the free comics here, I can literally go in there on a Tuesday morning as soon as we're done with some of the other stuff that's brand new and start getting it ready. We're going to have all our free comics next door. Wow. So we'll cycle everybody through next store, get your free comics. The First Coast Con will be here. The guys that represent that, they'll be next door helping to promote that because obviously we're a huge sponsor of that event. So we'll have the free comics next door. Everyone will cycle through there. We'll have huge sales on this place on the inside. The number one complaint I got for Free Comic Book Day, even though overwhelming majority of people absolutely love it, was that they didn't have time. There was no room to shop. You were just in line the whole time, because to get in line and get it, you couldn't really get around. So I think this year it's going to take Free Comic Book Day to the next level for us, obviously. So getting all the free comics, they're just in boxes next door. So getting them all out, separating, sorting, counting them all in, making sure. But we've gotten everything in from all the distributors already. It's not just Diamond anymore, like you alluded to at the beginning of this thing. So literally when I wake up tomorrow morning, Free Comic Book Day starts. We have to plan our waffle. Which is, if you don't know, it's basically a giant raffle that we give away stuff here. And so for our 15, we call it the Ultimate Waffle. And so this year for Free Comic Book Day, we're going to have over $2,600 worth of prizes that we give away that day. On top of it, you get a free entry just for showing up. So it's not even like you have to actually purchase anything. So just showing up for Free Comic Book Day gets you in those waffles. And, and it's one of my favorite days. So I'll have lots of other small little get-together and events planned. And it just, like I said, we've been working on this thing for a couple months already, getting ready to go. And so now it's actually implementing and making it happen. But I'll probably bring a sleeping bag.
That is some serious play. You know what? But I think it says something that you're going on 7 years, of owning the shop, of doing Free Comic Book Day. And to me, outsider looking in, and as a, active participant, it's cool to hear that now it's just logistics, right? Like, you've got everything else covered. You've been through the trial by fire. You guys are a well-oiled machine. And now it's like the opportunity to have more space to do more things and have like a smooth, you know what I'm saying? Like, the least of your concern now is like logistics. Like, how can we really make it a smooth thing?
Well, yeah, I hate waiting in lines. I do. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Literally, my girlfriend and I, when we were at MegaCon, we got those shoes signed, MegaCon. Literally, the people that signed the shoes were the people that didn't have lines when we walked up there. If there's a line, we're like, out of here, dude. We can't do this anymore. And so I really do feel for people. I appreciate, we're one of the only places in town that'll let you take one of every free comic. There's got to be 40-something titles this year, and you can literally have one of everything here. I don't care what it costs us. It's not about the money that you put into it. It's really about what Free Comic Book Day does as a platform to continue the rest of the year.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it really is. And, for a lot of people, it's still their first Free Comic Book Day. Not a lot of people understand. Also, Free Comic Book Day is not every comic in our shop for free. True story. The second year I was in here, a lady had at least 150 comics in her arm. And I was like, oh, this is going to be the sweetest sale ever. I love that. But I was like, in my head, I was like, ma'am, you know that not all the comics are free today, right? And she looked stunned and then handed them all back to me. I was like, no, I'm not going to put all these away.
You almost wanted to give it to her for free at that point.
Yeah, and I was like, maybe you should just take them, lady. No, so it's going to be awesome. It's so much fun. The comics themselves have really changed, too, in the 7 years. It used to be a free comic that they put out, but they really now are putting out like kind of that the beginning of a comic, kind of give you that preview of a brand new storylines that are going to be coming out. So it's a really cool event like that. And now some of these things become valuable, just like other comics, like the House of Slaughter Free Comic Book Day one that came out a couple years ago, goes for a pretty penny. And anytime they have a first appearance, like Blade's daughter was in one a couple years ago. Yeah, Bloodline, her first appearance was in Free Comic Book Day. So on top of it, they can actually hold some value to it. To boot.
I like that you brought up this could always be, you never know if it's someone's first Free Comic Book Day. And I know, times that I've stood in line and struck up a conversation. It is kind of cool to be there for someone's first, not only Free Comic Book Day, but you never know, it might be someone's first time walking to a comic book shop. They're bringing the kids, they're looking for something to do on a Saturday. But I want to ask you, Ben, what's your first memory of a Free Comic Book Day? Like your first conscious exposure of attending and partaking in a Free Comic Book Day? What's the earliest memory you have?
Gosh, man. What was the very first one I ever went to? It would have been with one of my friends up in outside of Boston, Massachusetts. So we went down to Newbury Street, Newbury Comics down there, and they had a huge event. But they had like DJs and Newbury Street is this giant street of small shops right in the middle of the heart of Boston. But they're all eclectic. They're kind of, some go down down a step, so they're like kind of on top of each other. These
multi-level.
Such cool old buildings. But that was really the first experience of Free Comic Book Day. And then I went to a couple here in Jacksonville. And to be honest with you, they're kind of underwhelming. I mean, we went, we checked it out, we grabbed a couple comics, but people had rules, and it didn't look like they were trying to stimulate like sales. For us, I think it's the best day of the year. It's like almost like a Black Friday again for us. So you're going to have all these awesome people in your shop. How are you not going to try to take advantage of that by also offering great deals on some other stuff? Because shops like mine don't exist because of the product we sell. That is not why. You could order this stuff online. You could even buy Free Comic Book Day comics online and have them shipped to your house. Shops like ours exist because we're a community shop. And the idea is you want to be a part of the community and be a part of this place. And when people drive up here, Botter, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the weekdays, you know how that traffic is out there. It's the worst in Jacksonville from JTB down here. And so every single person that sits through this traffic at like 5:30 in the afternoon when they get in here, I'm like, man, I feel like I should give you like a hand massage or like a coupon to free bowling, or holy shit, dude, it's so impressive that people actually drive through that stuff to get over here and be a part of the shop. And so for me, that's really what it's all about. So then for Free Comic Book Day, I don't care about cost at all. I spend money left and right because I know throwing an amazing event pays off for itself in the long run. We always get a number of people whose first time coming to the Limit is Free Comic Book Day and then end up doing it on the regular.
Man, I've always admired that you fully understand like that. What is that saying? So you have to spend money to make money, but then you also always value giving an experience to the customers, to the folks that show up to the shop, and genuinely show appreciation. And I think that's why it's always resulted in it. I just realized that for the however many times we've done like this live, this recording here at the shop, it always usually times with a new plaque or reward that you get. And I think you recently just got, the shop won another award, and I believe it was for it was a Best of Jack's
business rate, best comic shop. Yeah.
So I was curious what that, the organization was or what the award was. And I guess it's based on how many reviews you have on like Google reviews. They've got to be within a certain time. It was like kind of elaborate. Right. It was like, hey, it's got to be within 90 days, this many reviews and like this many stars. And, I was like, well, I don't think I've ever really looked at how many reviews Gotham City Limit has when you pull it up on Google Maps. You have over 600 reviews, all of them highly positive. So congrats on the award. It makes sense. And I want to read off two that kind of struck me in particular. Just because I want people to understand.
All right, don't read the 1-star review where I took the guy to his limit, Botter. True story, it's on there. You can find that later.
I want to hear that in a second. Let's start with love first. This one was written 4 weeks ago. Definitely a gem, super helpful staff, excellent variety and cleanliness. Can't say enough good things. Side note, you never know what someone is going through, and I had a moment in the parking lot after getting my Blade Runner comics where I just cried with gratitude. I've had some of the toughest days of my life this week. I'm walking into a store, being greeted with friendly assistance, and finally finding some joy in something I've hunted for a while. The whole experience was important to me. Shop here, you won't regret it. How does that strike you hearing that?
Man, dude, I remember that review we just got a couple weeks ago, and I responded to that guy in a very heartfelt message. But that's like, man, that's when you get burned out from working a lot. Like, because no matter what you do, when you work a lot and you're just constantly on and you never turn it off and you're always answering emails and you're always responding to something, that stuff right there. holy shit, is the most powerful drug there is. It is an amazing feeling to be able to do something like that for somebody, but I've also been there myself. We've all had a moment where something has happened in our lives that we weren't, not just buying a comic, but something that happened in our lives where we got out to our car afterwards and we kind of just let out a visceral scream or a cry or whatever it was. So, but that actually, that review and then you bringing up the plaque is literally just reminds me two things. One, I have the best staff in the world. We're very tiny. Jonathan, Chloe, and Santana are amazing, though. And it is very hard for a shop owner to be gone and to think that this place will operate and treat people exactly the same way. And these people go above and beyond. So I have the best staff ever. And then every single one of those awards we win is literally because people enjoy their experience. They come in, enjoy, and then they leave and they say something positive about us. So it's really a community award. But that review where a guy's looking for his comic, you just literally never know. You brought it up earlier where sometimes at Free Comic Book Day, it's really fun because it might be someone's first free comic book day, but nothing's better than selling a kid his first comic. And it seems to happen like once or twice a week in here. You forget when you do something for 7 years how many people still don't even know you exist, especially in a giant population like Jacksonville. So you get a lot of people who still frequent a couple other comic shops in town because they literally just don't really know that there are other places they can go that they might enjoy a little more, whatever. But when we still get them in here, and when you get a kid his first comic or you start getting them involved and they start repeating it, his parents are excited. It literally is a large win. I mean, we'll have parents come in and be like, yo, my kid's reading is now on another level just from, picking up a couple comics, starting here. Now he reads everything. So reviews like that, getting plaques, all of it is just the internal motivation you need to continue to make sure that money isn't the driving factor in your business, creating an amazing community, local spot. The money follows itself afterwards.
That is really well said. Ben, I'm also thinking about how you've now, it feels like you really kind of emphasized lately, taking everyone to the limit, even those that don't necessarily live in Jax or are local. We're recording right now well after hours. The shop is closed, it's been closed for the past hour. You just wrapped up what I think was a 2-hour whatnot session. I know that you've been doing whatnot more regularly. Yeah. I think in a way to just dominate, completely bring everyone to the limit.
It's nice, yeah.
But I guess how important is it for you to be online on sites like Whatnot? I mean, do you think like that goes a long way in keeping the shop alive and the name out? Like, do you think for an aspiring comic shop owner, do you think other comic shops should also be online like that and, utilizing Whatnot?
Yes. Well, I mean, obviously you're a part of everything, but Whatnot is really cool, like you said, because it does expose you to a lot of people that don't know you exist. You realize what a small fry you are when you have, and let's say you have an exclusive comic up on your website, but then I put it on eBay for $10 more and people are buying it off my eBay store for $10 more when they could literally go to GothamCityLimit.com and get it for less, but they just don't know you exist. Yeah. So I constantly, actually, that's my hardest push and pull. My kind of tug of war mentally with how much do I want to grow online and throughout the country. Because I can never, ever, ever sacrifice even one day in here. So that's what really matters to me is the shop. Without the locals, without the community part of it, the online stuff, it doesn't really matter. However, it's the natural progression of stuff once you start having some awesome people like Jonathan and Santana and Chloe who can be here, who can help run the shop for you a little bit essentially and still keep us at the level we want to be. Now we can get on Whatnot once a week And then Whatnot's also awesome because there's local pickup. So we get those people we ship to, which we know all across the country, and then people who are local that can come get sweet deals, come and pick it up. We don't have to ship it out. They come and grab it. But it's a no-brainer to be online. Obviously, that's where a lot of sales are. And especially with our exclusives, I think that it really is the next like area that we can continue to grow. You know, we have First Coast Con this year. Eventually, we would like to go and start doing some other cons and taking it to the limit in that aspect. But I never want to sacrifice this place, so I am a little cautious about taking on too many projects outside of this because, man, if this place sucks and we start dropping the ball here and we don't really do what we're supposed to, who cares if we're in Chicago or anywhere else doing anything? So, yeah. And then like anything else, man, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So you just figure out how much you can actually handle with the awesome people that you have, and then you kind of keep growing naturally. But being online is a no-brainer. You can't do it in 2025 without, I don't think.
Agreed. All right, well said. All right, Ben, I want to pivot back to Free Comic Book Day. This year, I believe I tallied up, there is a total of 44 or 46 free comic books that are associated with the event this Saturday. They've got, and they've broken it down like they always do. They've got 13 titles for the gold tier, which, by the way, did you know that there is a Free Comic Book Day committee that's consisted of multiple or several comic shop retailers, and they all kind of vote on, hey, here's who we consider the gold tier titles. So these are like the best representation of like the event, comic books that are family friendly, that are, you know, kind of major. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm going to list off the 13 or the titles for the gold tier. And I want to just get your thoughts if any of that.
Who's voting on that stuff? I didn't know that. No, I had never heard that story before.
The Free Comic Book Day Committee has selected the 13 gold sponsor comic book titles for the comic book industry's most anticipated annual event. Ben, I would say that you could probably lead said.
Well, maybe one day. You probably have to have at least 10 years of Free Comic Book Day experience. All right, that's what I'm going to say. And I'm only on 7, so we got a couple more here, baby. Yeah, all right,
so here's what we got for gold sponsored titles. I don't think it's in any particular order. Maybe by distributor or publisher. Sorry, It's by publisher. I have a link to this in the show notes if anyone wants to take a look, but it's on freecomicbookday.com. So starting off, we got Archie's Comic Spectacular, the Power Rangers / VR Troopers from Boom Studios, Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures / Avatar The Last Airbender from Dark Horse Comics, Thundercats and Powerpuff Girls have a crossover from Dynamite. I swear to God, Dynamite.
They're really putting out that comic, too. I had to order it last Monday. Try being a comic shop and figure out how many fucking Thundercat Powerpuff Girls you need to order, dude. So I literally looked at it. I was like, I don't know. There's fucking 25 covers. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Whatever, Dynamite. We're going to do it.
Have we talked about how I think I don't want to say having taste, but like, there's got to what goes into being able to kind of like eyeball an order, like something like Thundercats Powerpuff Girls. Like I'm assuming it's in my head it's based off of, all right, how many people do I have that are already pulling Thundercats and Powerpuff Girls? But what's like the X factor?
Okay, so some are very hard. But X factor is 2 things. Yes, you look at pull list and then you look at artist. Okay, so Space Ghost Johnny Quest crossover called Space Quest is coming out, right? And you know this because I think you talked about this already. But,
yeah, Joe Casey.
Yep,
right.
Exactly. So, but Space Quest is coming out, and now you would look at your Johnny Quest pull and say, hey, look, we usually get about 30 copies of Johnny Quest and sell out. Space Ghost usually get about 6, and we're talking A cover only. Yeah, the incentives and all the variants in it, it's a little bit more. Space Ghost, you get about 65 copies, but now it's a Mark Spears cover on top of it, and it's Space Ghost Johnny Quest. So most times, like with Thundercats Powerpuff Girls, I'm going to look at my Powerpuff Girl numbers, and I'm going to add probably a little bit to that, but most people that get Thundercats aren't going to want the Thundercats Powerpuff because it's a little bit more of a younger style story, Mannix art, kind of like. So some Thundercats people will still get it, definitely. We'll still have 10 or 15 hardcore Thundercats, but mostly it'll be Powerpuff Girls with a few additionals. Nothing about the covers really strikes anybody as super collectible, so there's no reason to just get extras of that. But like I said, for Space Quest, Mark Spears cover, Space Ghost, and Johnny Quest, and everybody who's on Space Ghost will want the Space Quest Johnny Quest story. So I will order for Space Ghost plus Johnny Quest, mix it in. So that one I gamble on. It's got a Mark Spears cover, so you take a big gamble and you get a bunch of those. And now what I have learned over 7 years is that 1s and 2s I order a decent amount of because you can't get people on series unless you have 1s and 2s. And when 3 comes out, you're 3 months past when 1 came out. You can't go back and get any. So it's just kind of like, and we read and sell. But I don't know how anybody runs a comic. Yes, I do. I know how comic shops run comic shops without reading stuff. They look at pull numbers. They got 9 people on Powerpuff Girls and they're getting 11. But that's not what we are. I mean, obviously, having pull customers is huge and very nice, and we give big discounts and bags and boards for super cheap to people that we try to reward them for signing up for pulls. But man, on Wednesday, do we get a lot of walk-ins? Because the key, I think, to new comics is have it for people. Like, they don't know what they want 2 months ahead of time. But you love comics. You don't want to commit to a comic too. What if you hear a week before you don't want it anymore? Or what if something happens where you're like, I read the first one and I'm done with this? We have a thing on the board that says, if you don't want a comic anymore, just hand it back to us. Don't hide it in here. All right? And it's because...
I'm guilty, all right?
Yeah.
That's fine for me. I think it says bar in parentheses. I'm sorry. It was one time.
But the reality is we don't... if you asked for something on your poll and you came in and you were like, hey, I know this is on my poll, but I don't like it anymore. I don't want to get it. The last thing we're going to do is make you buy a comic you don't want. Plus, you'll end up probably adding something else. But on Wednesdays, man, we are walk-in central. We don't care if you have never heard of a title that has come out. We don't care if it's brand new. If you send us an email on Tuesday night, the night before Wednesday, the comic comes out, we're going to pull it for you and hold it for you. And very few shops are going to do that because we are walk-in. We love having walk-in customers. And that's important to us.
I think every comic shop owner or employee has to have. I think they all have like a superpower, and that is like the ability to have gut feeling. Because it sounds like it's a combination of having a gut feeling, knowing your readers, the folks that come in, what they might be willing to try. Also, like, having an analytical side where you're looking at numbers. But, it is a lot
trial
of like,
and error. I mean, I made some big mistakes on some titles. I mean, that just occasionally it happens, and there's really not a lot you can do. You just try to recoup it. And then some are amazing, and they just keep on giving, And so, in general, though, I can't imagine ordering this stuff and not reading it. I mean, I've already got next week's DC and Image comics. They came in already, and so I've got those in my file folder back here. I'm taking them home with me. I'm going to read next week's comics tonight. I like to live in the future. But I love the stuff, and I love it. I mean, Predator Spider-Man was so amazing, just came out this week. I don't understand why you would want a comic shop and not want to know what's going on in that stuff. So
well said. That was a hell of a tangent for Thundercat Powerpuff Girls.
Red Bull.
Yeah. Okay, so continue on the rest of the gold tiers. And like I said, feel free to stop me anytime something comes. What's up, Pacer?
Pacer, Shop Dogs here.
Yeah, buddy. Okay. Yeah, if you're watching a video, then you get an awesome video cameo by the best comic shop dog in the world, Pacer. Okay, moving on. So we got I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics. I'm kind of surprised this is the only Image free comic book day title this year.
I think they probably had something to do with the Diamond split off. Yep. Image kind of just abruptly, left, went to Lunar, pretty much cut off Diamond all in one one fell swoop. And so I have a feeling that it has something to do with it because Image has been putting out amazing titles, so it would be silly not for them not to have some more previews. Yeah. So it's probably got something to do with it.
I agree. Okay, moving on. From Mad Cave Studios, we get Speed Racer number 0. From Marvel, we're getting 2 free comic. I think I'm a little more, but in this gold tier, we're getting 2 Marvel comics in the gold tier. Fantastic Four / X-Men number 1, so we get 2 stories and 1 comic there. Then we also get Spider-Man / Ultimate Universe number 1. And then moving on to the last 2. No, I'm sorry. There's still more in the gold tier. Disney's Phineas and Ferb from Paper Cuts. Dr. Seuss Free Comic Book Day exclusive from Random House Children's Books. This one that I'm very excited for. The Energon Universe Free Comic Book Day 2025 special from Skybound, which I guess kind of counts as an Image release as well. Ben, I think the last 2 times that we've recorded a podcast and talked, you've gone on saying how huge the Energon universe has been. It's now about 2 years, maybe even 3 years going into the Energon universe. Is it still holding strong?
Yeah, it's still amazing. Not only that, but they're actually the last issue of G.I. Joe that just came out, number 6. A little bit of spoiler alert. It is finally tying Transformers and G.I. Joe and some of these the Void Rivals, they're all getting tied together for the first time. So it's actually pretty awesome. They have really slow played this. I mean, even in the G.I. Joe series, they have only released a few different characters. They have so many more kind of lined up. So that obviously will be a huge, huge thing. You know, last year, Energon Universe, there was the one complaint I had about it was they fucking put out the comic afterwards and made people pay like $4.99 for it, and the whole thing was in the free comic book day thing. Like, shameless. I swear I don't even know what's going on. I promise anybody who makes a free comic book day comic, you shouldn't put the whole thing in there. I'm speaking to you, Mega Man.
That's well said.
No, but classified stuff is awesome. You know, I don't know Disney's Phineas and Ferb. I mean, I know the characters, but I don't think I've ever seen. I was too old to.
That was that's a cartoon that I like to call After I Moved Out cartoon.
Yeah,
or I was already moved out, and my brothers were still watching cartoons, and you know that was one of them.
Now, so it's like kind of like a Ren and Stimpy. Is that kind of? I mean, I don't know anything about it, man. I guess For a gold one, I was a little curious. So.
Yeah, I am curious how they go about picking the gold. Like I said, I think it's supposed to be a representation of we got your superhero comics, we've got your indie comics, your kids comics, but the last 2 titles on the gold tier are Conan the Barbarian from Titan Comics. Looks like Scourge of the Serpent, a new little one shot that's supposed to set up the next big story arc. And last but not least, I have a feeling this might be extremely popular with the kids that come in on Saturday. But Minecraft, the manga / Beyblade X. Ben, let me tell you something. When Beyblade first came out, I was definitely young enough to play Beyblades. In my neighborhood, it took it by storm.
Really?
We would personally host Beyblade tournaments in our garage, and my mom would have to break it up sometimes because it got kind of heated, all right? And we were pretty competitive little kids about these Beyblades. Cool.
I didn't even realize that it was crossed over with the Minecraft comic, but
I'm noticing that's a trend here where they're stacking multiple. A lot of these comics, especially from Marvel, are stacking multiple stories and a 2-for-1.
Yeah, the Marvel stuff will always be popular. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for a little Speed Racer. I don't think there's a lot of people that know some Speed Racer, and so I think that has a nice little group of underground people all part of it. The Marvel stuff will obviously be super popular. The Energon universe.
Is it surprising because we're talking about how Image technically has 1-2 releases, but I'm going to quickly scroll through the silver, but I don't think DC is on it. Does it surprise you that DC is not involved? With
I don't. For whatever reason, they do a little free comic book day thing, but not like a gold one like they should. Ever since 2020 and COVID, DC was the first one that left Diamond Distribution and they started Lunar Distribution. And that's where they distribute all their stuff. Ever since then, they don't do posters. They don't do comic boxes anymore. It's like this little, they just started distributing statues again. So I honestly think that maybe they just didn't want to bite off more than they can chew as a distribution center.
Yeah.
Because even now, Lunar it does, now that Diamond is basically bankrupt and everybody has left, or almost everybody has left, now Lunar does DC, Image, Mad Cave, Oni Press, Massive. I mean, and now They're not as good as they used to be. It is hard. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of extra titles. They used to be 100% accurate, and now we're missing 10 of this. You're over 10 of that. You're under, because it's just so many titles and so many new things that I think even their distribution center, they're starting to realize, dang, it is a lot every single week, a relentless amount of comics. So
I kind of find that a little ironic. Well, maybe not ironic, depends on who you ask, but in my opinion, that's a little ironic because DC is in top form when it comes to the actual comics, the stories they're telling, the creative teams. I think they're knocking it out the park in a way that it feels like some of the other publishers are trying to play catch up, especially like Marvel. I think in comparison, DC's been killing it. So it's a little interesting to hear you say that they've been pulling out in other ways that are involved with comics, whether it be the merchandise, the shipping.
Hopefully, we'll start getting them. The boxes are amazing. Comic boxes are just they before 2020 they made them all the time. Batman, Superman, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy. I mean, you should be making a Flash box, a Batman box, just like we have Spider-Man and Red Hulk, and people need to hold their comics in there anyway. But yeah, I agree with you 100% in terms of like DC's product. The comics are amazing. I mean, I have this like optimism in my soul that James Gunn is about to make DC Comics valuable over the next 10 years by slowly introducing all of these characters back to the mainstream via the DCEU that he's leading up. I mean, shit, Peacemaker now, man. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but to have 26 people on a Peacemaker comic book pull list is crazy if you would have thought about it 10 years ago. You know, no one would even told you who Peacemaker was, let alone had over 20 people pulling that comic. And the new Peacemaker comic is like reading the TV show. It's amazing.
I'm curious from your perspective as a retailer and shop owner, does it feel like James Gunn is actively, I wouldn't say like throwing comics a bone. He's doing more than that. It feels 100%. Like he is absolutely putting in the forefront.
Holy shit, man. Social media is amazing. Yes. He's always out there sharing Superman Day and big things and talking about what it means to be a Superman fan and then just continuing on with everything. He's on a cover of a comic coming out, variant cover, James Gunn and Superman. They're doing a David Cornsweet, James Gunn like tribute. They're doing Superman tribute comics in June for the movie in July. So yeah, James Gunn is drawn on the cover, but he obviously loves it. You can tell his wife, who is now who is on the Peacemaker show. Yeah, you can tell she loves it. That she loves being a part of it. His brother, who's always in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, they love it. True. And so I think that's where I legitimately get excited about James Gunn because some people love him, some people it's not their favorite thing in the world, but he cares and he has a passion. It's like watching Dave Filoni talk about Star Wars. You're holy shit, that person really does. He knows everything about what it's supposed to be.
He's one of us. So, it's like you're excited because one of us is getting the opportunity to share these stories on the big screen and give it like that reverence and respect it deserves.
Yeah, no, I have a feeling that he's going to do a really good job representing, because all I've heard from him is that he wants to do it comic book accurate. And my biggest complaint about modern movies is they're literally taking these awesome comic stories and instead of using the fucking awesome story that sold all the comics, they change it and they make it a little different. And I'm like, you already had the story written, but every writer and artist wants to do their own thing, so I get it. But in reality, his passion and his vocalness about making sure that it is comic accurate is going to be great. Superman, I'm pointing to my little Superman rack over here, but they had Superman Day just last week, and they put out the Grant Morrison.
A lot of good ones.
And that's what he's kind of focusing his Superman on. And I think because of how Superman's been portrayed over the last 10 years, I think a lot of people think Superman's like an angry alien like Batman, and he's really not. He's the opposite of that. He's about hope and saving and being there for people. He is not an angry, vindictive alien. And so I think we're about to see like a whole different side to Superman that we used to get in those like kind of original Superman movies.
Ben, can I admit to you, I did not watch the latest trailer until a couple days ago. I was making a reel for the Outlets interview. Yep. So I reluctantly watched the new 5-minute sneak tease, and I gotta say, man, there was something about watching Superman being dragged to the Fortress of Solitude thanks to crypto, and then his helper bots
Yep.
helping him out in the exchange they had. I found myself laughing, but also in awe that it felt like fantastical, or there's another word I'm thinking of, but there was a fantasy element to it that made me really excited to see in a Superman movie.
I saw the original Superman trailer when it first came out and was like most trailers, I try not to get too excited because they can show you some of the what they really want to see. But when they put that teaser trailer out and Crypto is jumping on speed up Superman, like every dog owner knows, it changed. I was like, oh my God, this movie is going to be unbelievable. Then dragging him to it, and then the Fortress of Solitude coming up out of the ice, so comic book accurate, and then moving to focus on the sun, and then I'm hoping that door. I'm hoping that's just a dog door that Crypto walked in. I hope they still have like a giant key for the main part of whether they do or not. But how cool in my head that was just a dog door that Crypto dragged Superman in, and just the human nature of that, and then watching the rest of the scenes and some of the other characters that he's like Metamorpho, and I have a feeling we're really gonna enjoy seeing some other DC characters that you've never heard of. I think they're gonna become more popular again. So just like Metamorpho or Hawk Girl or Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, my one complaint with all of DC animated movies that they put out over the last 5 years is that they would substitute modern characters in the place of stories because they thought that people wanted to see Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and Flash. But like Death of Superman, for example, that was a really great story, but it had nothing to do with Wonder Woman or Cyborg or Flash. This was Guy Gardner and Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and like a lot of these side characters that JSA were helping fight along Superman. So I thought DC missed an opportunity in their animated film to show people some of these awesome other characters that they have that people don't even know exist. And so I think James Gunn's going to crush that part of it with the Superman movie.
He's got a knack for making you fall in love with, the third string character or the B-list character. So I'm excited to see some of these other characters like Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, I'm not sure which Hawk is in there, but one of them, Guy Gardner, all of them get to share the spotlight. But Ben, I want to get back to the Free Comic Book Day titles. I listed off the gold tier titles, which was about 13 of them, and then there's the next tier, which is silver tier, which make up the remaining 33 comics or more.
Yep.
So we're definitely not going to go through that entire list. But are there any other Free Comic Book Day titles that pique your interest, that you're excited for, that you think people should make sure that they grab when Free Comic Book Day comes?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sometimes is it like, is it a Free Comic Book Day that I'm excited to read because I'm obviously a comic.
Give us both.
I will. I'll give you both, but it's a little bit of both. So one that I'm very excited about is Mega Man. I've always loved Mega Man, playing the original Mega Man games when we were younger and stealing the powers and just old Nintendo. And, it's like that old South Park Member Berries. Remember how happy you were when you played Mega Man, Ben? I'm like, yeah, so the Mega Man title I am like super excited about, especially because they're going to do a little bit of a timeline thing past this one and release 5 new Mega Man comics this year. Last year they released I Like Popeye, and then that one on Free Comic Book Day, and that one became very popular. It's taken so long, they finally just put the 4th issue of that out. But for Mega Man, the timelines comic, I am super excited about. Now, if you follow me on social media at all, or if you follow me on Whatnot, or you follow any video, I am actively telling everybody and their mom, buy Berserker. Okay, Keanu Reeves Berserker right now, I think, is the one thing that you can get at almost cover price still, which is insane to me, that is going to explode like Invincible, Walking Dead, etc., etc. They have an anime coming and a live action movie. Keanu Reeves is uber popular, so if he has anything to do with the live action movie, you know how popular and famous that'll make it. And then comics become valuable when people outside the comic community start going to look for the comic. Obviously, everybody in the comic community kind of already knows what's happening. But when you get that person listening to the radio hears about, new movie coming from a comic, Keanu Reeves, then they're all calling up, hey, you got Keanu Reeves Berserker. So Boom Studios is putting out a 5-part special that has 5 different little runs in it. But one of them is a new Berserker.
Oh, wow.
And I am super excited about that. And then another one that kind of takes back to my younger video game days, Street Fighter. There's a Street Fighter versus School Rivals that I'm super pumped.
Ben, I'll be honest with you. I'm a full both of those comics, the Mega Man and the Street Fighter versus Rival Schools, are both being published by Udon, who I believe have the rights to those to produce the comics. And I've been a lifelong Udon fan, and I always look forward to them doing a free comic book day. I think there's and they're a publisher that I don't think gets enough credit because they don't put out a ton of comic books. They're very kind of focused on.
You know what's weird about Udon? They put out like most comics. You have an initial order. And then 5 weeks approximately before the comic comes out, you have a final order cutoff where basically this is the last day you can place this order. Udon, for the 7 years going through Diamond Distribution, you placed an order one time. That's what you got. There never was a final order cutoff. So it was very, very hard to order that stuff because usually I like to wait till the last minute to figure out what I need. But Udon was like, nope, you're going to tell us a month and a half ahead of time. You're going to get this many, and then that's what you're getting. You're not going to get any more. They have since moved distribution centers and are on an FOC ordering. So that'll help me order. It'll help people get involved, and I think you're going to start seeing a huge increase. I think Udon is prime. Darkstalker is very popular. Yep. Street Fighter, very popular. I don't know the School Rivals that maybe it's a Street Fighter like tie-in something.
Rival Schools was like a Street Fighter-esque. Oh, it was a Capcom game, so it.
I don't know if I ever played that one, but it would be a cool crossover. But I'm with you. Udon makes great books, great stories, and really cool comics.
All right, Ben, there is one on this. I'm scrolling through the list on freecomicbookday.com. There is one on here that I'm very excited for that isn't listed because it was announced really late. But there's a Gundam Wing 25th anniversary free comic book day that's coming out, and if you happen to get that.
Definitely.
That's gonna be amazing.
Well, Gundam, obviously just the kits, and I've never seen a comic I wish they would put out like Gundam. Gundam, Pacific Rim, Godzilla's very popular. Some of these characters around these kind of genres are very popular. There's a new Star Wars coming out too, #1. And the cool part about that is, some people are down on Star Wars. This is brand
awesome
new
Phil
canon.
Nato cover, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but this is brand new canon for Star Wars. So everything they do in every single issue of Star Wars is brand new. There are no movies connected to it. They haven't told the stories yet, so it is a really cool jumping on point.
Okay.
And then here's one. If you're a video game player and you've never bought a comic in your life, free comic book day this year, Diablo might be the comic for you.
Nice.
Because Diablo is a very hardcore shoot 'em up game. And, you might have a lot of people who play that who never thought in their entire life that there would even be a comic or a story connected to it. So that might be a sweet one for somebody listening that's never actually been to a free comic book day before or doesn't think there's anything for them.
All right, Ben, I want to ask you specifically about this Mark Spears monster comic because, to be honest, you and John put me on to Mark Spears and how popular he is. I think, we've talked
3-hour line for Mark Spears in Alabama Con this weekend.
I saw that, yeah. And I know in the shop, his covers kind of fly off the shelf.
Yep.
How big do you think this Mark Spears Monsters comic is going to be?
Very big. I think it's continuing to be big. I think I ordered large on it. It's two things. Everybody loves the kind of monsters, kind of the idea of Universal monsters, all of the different characters. They make those comics outside of what Mark Spears does, Mummy and Frankenstein and Dracula, and those are all very, very popular comics. You forget. I mean, those things 3 or 4 times more than like Captain America or Iron Man or Black Panther or Superman. I mean, really big pulls for that stuff. But Mark Spears, doesn't matter what he does. We got people who are like, I don't care what cover it is. I need it. I want it. So that thing is going to be awesome. It's going to expose a lot of people to the Monsters comic as well. So I think it's definitely going to be one of the more popular titles. I got a lot of it, and I know other places that's going to be the one they run out of first.
Okay. I want to also spotlight one other free comic book day title on here, and that's the Godzilla: The New Heroes. That's coming out through IDW. My understanding is that they are launching a brand new kind of Godzilla universe, comic book universe, and it's going to be via 3 titles. This New Heroes, I think, is one of them. I can't recall the other 2, but I've been in contact with Greg Katzman, who's like the IDW's PR guy, really awesome dude. He actually helped me get an interview with Jason Aaron when he did the TMNT, but he's been very excited about this new Godzilla universe. I think I was able to see like an advanced preview of this, and the art is phenomenal. So if you're a Godzilla fan, a kaiju fan, and you've been looking for more Godzilla comic book content, I think this free comic book day issue is going to be a good jumping on point for all of that.
Yeah, if you're a Godzilla fan, it's like Godzilla Nirvana right now. I mean, I've only been doing the comics here like as an owner for 8 years. But there's never been so much Godzilla. There's Godzilla Heist. Okay, so he's got this one, right? They've been doing those. Then Marvel has been pumping them out. Godzilla versus Hulk, Godzilla versus Fantastic Four. They have Godzilla Spidey and Godzilla X-Men still to come. DC obviously already did DC versus Godzilla versus Kong, 1 volume, and they have a 2nd volume planned. Alan Quah is doing connecting covers for all 7 issues. It's pretty awesome. I checked that out. So you got a whole nother thing of that. And then on top of it, they're doing Godzilla versus all the cities. So there's been Godzilla versus Chicago, Godzilla versus LA. Then there's a Mothra comic out there with the twin sisters that are kind of controlled by Mothra. And so that comic has been super popular. I mean, it seems like every week a new Godzilla comic comes out. The Godzilla, I think that movie changed Godzilla's trajectory in America. Minus one. I think it shocked everybody. I don't think everybody thought Godzilla was just a standard movie you went to that a monster destroyed things. And I think that movie made you realize what great stories could be told with it as well. So, yeah, but Godzilla's crushed. That'll be as popular a title as there is.
Ben, I want you to close your eyes with me and just imagine this right here. Godzilla versus Jacksonville. And on the cover, you've got Mark Spears doing the artwork, and it's Godzilla versus Duval Dino, that big orange dinosaur on Beach Boulevard. How awesome would that be? An exclusive Gotham City Limit
That
cover.
would be pretty badass. That would be pretty badass.
You've got to pull to make it happen.
Okay, so here, I'll tell you what's happening. All right, there's a new Godzilla coming out that Tim Seeley is a part of.
Yep.
And for that comic, listen, I haven't told anybody this. I don't even know if I should be telling people this, but I'm going to. For IDW, for that comic that comes out, that Godzilla new comic that comes out, there's a cover where Godzilla is shooting his ray out. It is destroying the city in front of him, and a giant billboard is like flying through the air, and they're going to put Gotham City Limit logo on the billboard.
What?
Yes. So we're going to have an exclusive Godzilla comic with the Gotham City Limit logo on a billboard flying off like being destroyed by Godzilla. So that's coming this summer too. So that's your first thing. But yeah, it's awesome.
Short box exclusive.
Right. Well, that's the point.
Being destroyed by Godzilla.
That's the point. I have a feeling that most people think we do that stuff because we like money, and it's not, man. I mean, it was like doing The Walking Dead Deluxe when we got to do Gotham City Limit Raise The Walking Dead. I didn't give a shit how much money it cost. I didn't even know if I was going to sell one of them, but I wanted to put Gotham City Limit on the cover of a Walking Dead
You're more concerned
comic.
about making history. That's what I like about you.
I want to be a part of it.
Doing cool shit.
Yeah, because that's what you remember. You don't remember this fucking extra $2,500 I made in August. It was so great. You know what I mean? It was like, no. I mean, we have the Limit Mobile coming. Let me tell you, Botter, okay? We have chosen a design, and we're trying to implement it right now. But I think it might be the coolest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. And every step along the way, everybody who's helping me is like, do you know how much money that's going to be? Do you know how much money that's going to be? I'm like, well, I better go sell some more Predator Spider-Man comics then, because I don't give a shit. I'm having the Limit Mobile, dude. I own a comic shop, man. Some of these people take themselves way too seriously, dude. Like, come on, man. If you can't have fun and just put everything you got into having a comic shop, then just go start a power washing company or something on the side, dude. Because this isn't meant to be serious. This is meant to make sure that you bring some love and relaxation to other people's lives. So
I like
that stuff gets me all fired up, man. You know, because I honestly I fucking hate money, dude. I hate that shit. I wish there was a better way to do everything, but without it, this wouldn't exist. And so, my new line for everybody who comes in and complains about spending, like, oh, Ben, you got $92 out of me this week, right? They'll come in and be like, I spent $92 here. I'm like, my dad spent $400 on one round of golf for his hobby. Okay, that's nothing, and he doesn't get to keep anything or sell it later on. So you just got to remember, in terms of hobbies, it's really not that expensive.
And you're like, and my dad's not even good at it.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. You spent $450 to lose 50 balls.
Oh my God. Okay.
No, it is awesome.
Okay, Ben. I guess I mean, really what's left is the actual like, kind of serious stuff. So, all right, it's no secret to anyone that even follows comic books remotely. I think a lot of Wednesday Warriors know this already. But how am I going to phrase this question? I guess I'll just ask you bluntly and directly.
Yeah.
As much as I love Free Comic Book Day, I do know that it's not free for retailers. I know there's a lot of behind the scenes business that goes on to even get, publishers to print this stuff out. And I guess I'm curious, do you think this could possibly be the last Free Comic Book Day, considering the kind of shaky situation that Diamond is in? And for anyone that doesn't know, in January, Diamond Comics Distributors, one of the largest and longest running comic distributors, filed for bankruptcy, which has kind of sent shockwaves throughout the industry. There's a lot of uncertainty from shops, from publishers. I think, talking about Free Comic Book Day, I know Fantagraphics pulled out of Free Comic Book Day. They had a free comic that they were going to publish and put out, but they pulled out of that, citing that the uncertainty with Diamond and, kind of seeing what comes out of that bankruptcy and then being bought out. Mad Cave, I think, originally had 6 titles, canned 4 of them. They're still putting out 2. But I guess, and from your perspective, could this be the last Free Comic Book Day? I guess, has the Diamond situation impacted you at all, the way the shop is run, and maybe just like your confidence level in the industry at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously having a company that's like going through bankruptcy and you're trying to get stuff from them. They weren't run well to begin with, and then they went bankrupt, and so now they're not run well at all. It's just pretty much willy-nilly. The good news is most people saw the writing on the wall, and when I say most people, most comic book distributors saw the writing on the wall, and a lot of them, even if they had originally solicited it with Diamond, they re-solicited their free comics with others. So the reality is this is not the last Free Comic Book Day no matter what, even if Diamond doesn't exist. Because even though Diamond technically kind of created Free Comic Book Day and they were originally the only ones who distributed, because they were the only comic book distributor, it has taken on a life of its own. So, I mean, I can tell you Zenescope doesn't have a free comic, but I reach out to them and they sent me like 250 comics just to hand out for free.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I bring that up is that's what I mean when it's taken on a life of its own. Next year, if Diamond doesn't exist, well, DC are in Lunar and Image and Penguin Random House. They have Boom Studios now. They switched over there to Penguin Random House, but they already started distributing some of the free comics, so they've already taken a lot. There's only one company that really I can't get an answer from, and that's Dynamite Comics, about what their future is in terms of whether it's with Diamond or not. But I can tell you right now, if next year they were like, hey, Free Comic Book Day doesn't exist anymore, we would have some kind of Free Comic Book Day. We would figure out a way to continue it on. We would figure out comics that would be free that year, and we would continue to throw a party the first Saturday in May. And I think a lot of people are probably have that same mentality. So I don't see it going anywhere. I do seeing it not being a part of Diamond anymore, Diamond Distribution. I do see it separating, but it's a life of its own now.
It's
So
almost like I won't say it's like too big to fail, but it is so ingrained, I think, in the comic book culture and the comic book industry that I do agree. I think that other companies
we might have 15 titles next year instead of 44.
Yeah, it probably won't be the same as we know it, where it's like 40, but sometimes even some years like 50 plus free titles. I think it might look vastly different, maybe in terms of size and what titles are actually put out there. But something that you said earlier about how really, I think for a lot of different industries, a lot of different people, COVID, pre-COVID and post-COVID has radically changed just thinking about comic books, like you said,
so different.
Like all of these different companies, publishers that have gone to different companies, all these new distribution companies that have kind of popped up. I guess when I heard the news of, I guess I wasn't surprised by the news of Diamond declaring bankruptcy. I was more surprised that it didn't. I guess I was almost like, man, imagine if this was pre-COVID and this was the news we got. This would be devastating. I would be so scared for like you and Jonathan and Santana.
Yep.
But I, in a way, I was like, wow, feels almost like it's important, but it doesn't have the same weight it would have.
Yeah, I will say that Lunar, like I said, I was slightly criticizing them earlier just because they're starting to kind of drop the ball in specific areas because of their business, but they still do the best job shipping of any comic book distribution company that we've dealt with. And Penguin Random House sucked at the beginning. Actually, the grass is always greener the first week. The first week that Marvel switched over to Penguin Random House, they destroyed all the books because they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't understand, but they've gotten much, much better now. But yeah, the reality is that pre-COVID, you ordered from one business and they sucked. They never got you. Never one time before COVID did Diamond give me everything that was on my invoice that I paid for that week. And while that doesn't seem like a crazy, every single week for 4 years, they never got it right. Right.
Quickly.
Right. So so as soon as COVID happened, then everybody used the God clause to get out of their contract with them, started new distribution centers, and I am hopeful. But I know that no matter what happens next year, there will be a free comic book day. It has taken on a life of its own, whether or not it's officially freecomicbookday.com or if they sell that part to somebody else. I don't even know if it's really technically a part of Diamond anymore. Really, because last year or 2 years ago after COVID, DC started distributing their own free comics and Penguin Random House did. So we'd already kind of had a little. This isn't the first year that we've gotten comics from someone else for it. So
cautiously optimistic. I like it.
No
All right,
what.
Ben, I guess last question I got for you, and I love asking you this question, but what are, off the top of your head, what are some of the best comics that you've read recently? What are some of the best comic books out on stands right now?
Okay, those not
enough people are talking about.
Those Not Afraid was a 4-part series that was absolutely fantastic. Stand Still. An 8-part series that came out was amazing Image comic. Highly, highly recommend dealing with time travel. We're on the 3rd issue now, but Bug Wars, Jason Aaron, and Muhammad Azar, so good. Unbelievable. The Predator Spider-Man story is the most disgusting Spider-Man comic I've ever read in my life. In fact, this comic botter should have a red band on it and be polybagged because it's more brutal and disgusting than any red band comic Marvel put out this year.
That was a critique I did hear about it. It was that it is so gory and brutal. It almost is like, what's the point of red band?
Yeah.
We're putting this out.
Man, obviously the point of red band was to sell polybag comics because that's literally what they do, Those stories are awesome. Bug Wars is so good. Let's see. I'm sure there's a couple other ones. Mark Spears Monsters. You haven't read any of those. That whole run is fantastic. The Universal Monsters, The Mummy. I love that. TMNT, the best issue of TMNT that came out so far. And then here's one, Dennis Camp. You already read Assorted Crisis, so that's been good. We've only done 2 issues, but we knew that it was going to be awesome. But Absolute Martian Manhunter. Holy smokes. Just There's very few times where someone writes a comic and draws a comic that's different than every other comic that exists.
That's awesome.
It doesn't happen often. An Absolute Martian Manhunter is its own entity, from the artwork, from the way the artwork conveys how he's reading minds. It's literally it's a masterpiece, man. Absolute Martian Manhunter, unbelievably great.
I can't co-sign that enough. And I think what I also appreciate about the book, I love the hype around sometimes a book, just the lore, hearing, hey, it's sold out. I know when issue 1 came out, I think I was maybe smart enough, maybe not actually, now that I think about it, to have it on my pull. And I think it sold out everywhere. And eventually, I think when you guys hooked me up, you guys are awesome. But when issue 2 came out this week, I was standing in line. There was a guy in front of me. I had never seen him in the shop. Not that I know everyone that shops here, but I just had a feeling that I'm like, I don't think he comes in here a lot, but he had just that issue 2 of Absolute Martian Manhunter. He picked it up, left. And I asked John, I was like, how many people come in here that have come in here for that book that, are like new? And it's not surprising. Jonathan was like, hey, a lot. Like and I think that's what's cool about that book. It's a book that is bringing, new people into the shop to like search for it. And I'm curious, like, how they found out about it. What is the appeal? And I mean, it's got to be to your point that the art is awesome. The writing is great. I really think,
it's a word of mouth thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's just like the movies, I wish we could just have a candid conversation with like movie executives and let them know that if you make a good movie, you don't even need to spend $150 million on advertising. I promise it, word of mouth. We're all looking for something to go watch and something to do that is entertaining. Infinity War, that movie, the reason it was what it became was because as soon as people left that shit, they told everybody about it. And it's the same thing when The Matrix came out. I remember in 2000, early 2000s, when The Matrix came out, I was in Tallahassee at school, and kids going to the movie theater, coming back to our dorm and being like, holy shit, you need to go see that movie. So it's the same thing, I think, with some comics where, you don't know ahead of time. But then again, that's why I love it, that I was like, you know what? I love this writer. I think this is pretty cool. They sent me a PDF of it, so it looked different. And now we're the only place in town where you can come find the first 2 issues, Nice. And so, but you gotta take a risk. You want to find out stuff, and they reward you, because Marvel will do the opposite, and they'll make Mary Jane fucking Venom, and you'll want to burn every single comic they've ever made. It's so stupid. It's the dumbest motherfucking thing ever. Listen, Butter, they had a giant Venom with a gold symbol, and they could have made it Luke Cage. That was one of their things. Yeah. It would have been badass. Luke Cage's Venom. It was like set up for the perfect storyline. And then they're like, "Oh, psych! It's Mary Jane." I'm like, that doesn't look like Mary Jane at all.
I agree. They tried to like throw you off, but it just feels so clunky. Yeah, I remember that announcement thinking, you had it right there.
Yeah, but see, this is the disconnect. Marvel puts Mary Jane as Venom, but then every single retailer exclusive that you see online for new Marvel or for new Spider-Man comics has Mary Jane in a Spider-Man shirt, or Mary Jane on the fucking cover with Spider-Man. So everybody clearly wants Peter Parker and Mary Jane to still be in a relationship together, and Marvel's like, we'll let you make all your incentives, and you can sell those to all the fanboys. But she's Venom. Suck it. And they're like,
going to sell you dreams.
Me.
They sell dreams. That's what they do.
Yeah, they're selling dreams.
All right, Ben, this has been great, and I'm not going to say I'm not always impressed, but it never fails to impress me how quick you can list off. I mean, you didn't even let me finish the question. You already had all the answers for the best comic books. I love it. Ben, you got any closing remarks about Free Comic Book Day? Do you want to remind people what you got going on here?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're local to Jacksonville, then Free Comic Book Day, Gotham City Limit is the place. Huge discounts. So we're talking 45 to 50% off omnibus, trade paperbacks, and hardcover books. You'll get minimum 30% off all the comics in this place, graded discounts. And then to boot, like I told you before, we're going to have an ultimate raffle. We call it a waffle here, that will have $2,600 worth of prizes in it. I mean, you're talking Scotty Young signed graded comic books, all the way down to a Michael Keaton $400 Batman statue, and everything in between. Just for showing up that day, you'll get one free entry into that. You'll get one of every free comic. We'll have coffee and donuts in the morning morning. My man Abe is coming out here at 11. We're doing free food the whole day for everybody that comes here. We're going to have big giveaways for free First Coast Con. We've got 10 free tickets for First Coast Con we're going to be giving away that day, and then everything in between. So literally, it's the best day of the year. And if for some reason you can't make it Saturday, May 3rd, Saturday, May 4th, you can take it to the Limit. We'll have free comic book day weekend here. We're not like some of those other places only do it once. So yeah, but no, free comic book day is the best. And you don't have to wait till Saturday. If you're local, you can come here on Wednesday and start getting those deals, because I've learned as a comic shop owner, if you're going to have big sales, people will just wait for the big sale. So you might as well start having the sale on Wednesday and let people take advantage of the sale the whole weekend. You don't want to talk somebody out of buying something.
That's well said, man. Yeah. Lessons to live by if you're in the business and making money.
I will say this, Botter, because we brought up the Superman movie earlier and the preview. After I watched that preview, I sent an email to Cinemark and I rented a 59-person theater. I paid for every seat plus $100. I have my own theater for Superman on July 13th at Sunday at 6:30 p.m., sir, and you are invited.
My man.
Yeah, then we're taking Superman to the limit. Yeah. But seriously, no, Free Comic Day is going to be awesome. I couldn't do this stuff without people like you who have a passion for it, who do it on their spare time, because, this isn't the only thing that you do to get through in life, and that you come on Sunday nights. You're always giving me compliments, but you come on Sunday nights, you make it happen in the middle of the evening. You sit around putting together all of the different clips that it takes to make something like this happen. So that's why I enjoy doing this, because you bring it as much as I do. So I can't wait for our end of the year thing. We'll rock it up again here. We'll be doing that. Free comic book day. And for First Coast Con, we'll definitely be doing some fun stuff as well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
But thank you, Botter. Seriously.
I want to go ahead and say also, as we close out, to the non-Jax local listeners, I still love you guys, all right? I know right now they're like, damn it, why don't I live in Jax? But, ladies and gents, of the Short Box Podcast, and we just got done talking with Ben Kingsbury, the owner of Gotham City Limit, about Free Comic Book Day, which you can expect, the comic books they got coming out, and how they're celebrating here at Gotham City Limit. I have links to Gotham City Limit. You can follow them on social media. I have links to that in the show notes. I'll have a link to all the Free Comic Book Day titles we talked about. It's at freecomicbookday.com. And thank you guys so much for hanging out, and have a happy and awesome Free Comic Book Day. You guys have been great. I'll holler at you later, all right? Peace.